Hello, arcade gamers, and welcome back to Biggie D's Arcade. Today we got some breaking news out of Arcade1Up. They're going to bring us two new cabinets later this year. One of them we've already discussed. We kind of knew about one of them. The other one was a complete surprise. This was all leaked yesterday through a Canadian GameStop website. A lot to cover today, so let's get into it. So you heard me right. We're going to have two new cabinets later this year. A lot of speculation as far as Arcade1Up and their future and where they're heading. And, for the last year and a half, all we've seen are rehashes, no new cabinets. They're just re-releasing previous versions or maybe making slight alterations to the cabinet and then re-releasing it again. It looks like that's how it's going to be for the rest of 2025 as well. The first one we're going to discuss is going to be the Big Buck Hunter Pro. This is a cabinet now that they're going to do for the fourth time. If you remember the original, it came with a riser, came in at a price tag of $500. It did have some nice things about that cabinet, though, and I think that's why it sold well. It had 4 Big Buck Hunter games. It had send-in technology. It was also one of the first shooting cabinets that Arcade1Up released. Did so well, they made a deluxe version, which had no riser. It had more sleek looking design. Also, had a much taller design, came in at over 68 inches and was popular. I think it sold very well at Best Buy a couple years ago. So much so that Walmart ended up doing a classic edition, which was the third version. That one came in at $399. Now they're coming out with what's called the Big Buck Hunter Pro Mossy Oak Deluxe cabinet. This essentially is a collaboration similar to like what we saw with the Kith edition, Marvel vs. Capcom. They've done, similar cabinets like this where they basically partner with another company to try to advertise their brand and their product. And I thought this was, from a marketing standpoint, a really good idea. A great, I think, fit for a mossy oak camo, and that patented trademark camo would be a Big Buck Hunter cabinet. So good job. Props to Arcade1Up for coming up with that idea. Outside of the cosmetics, though, there's not really going to be many differences, unfortunately. We're looking at the same 4 games, the same light guns, the same basically cabinet design. There are a few differences I'm going to get into here in just a moment. Also, the 17-inch BOE monitor and a molded coin door. Let's take a look at some of these images. I pulled these from the GameStop Canadian website. That's who leaked it yesterday. In fact, if you go to the Arcade1Up website right now, you're not going to see these images and you're not going to be able to pre-order this quite yet. But these are the side panels. This is the mossy oak patented trademark camo here on the side panels. If you look at the kick plate, it's also going to cover that whole area as well. And then also they've included it on the marquee and the send-in light guns as well. Now, some things that I'm not so happy with, and I discussed this a few weeks ago on my live stream whenever we had received that port data, knowing that this was coming, is I had speculated that we need a lit marquee for once. The previous 3 versions did not have a lit marquee, and I was very hopeful that this one would have that. Unfortunately, it does not, and I think that is for 2 reasons. It's twofold. One being that the send-in technology costs them more money. The profit margin isn't as great. So one way they can cut costs to make a little extra money is to exclude that lit marquee. Other reason being it does use the send-in technology. It creates a white border around the screen, and that's what makes those guns so accurate and allows you to point and click on the area of the screen that you would like. You put a marquee, a real bright marquee above it, that can distract that sensor and how accurate it is on the screen. So I think those are the reasons why we're not seeing it. Finances, they want to see bigger profits. Also, they want it to work more accurately and be more enjoyable of an experience when you're actually playing the game. One idea I would like to say, and something I would like to see from Arcade1Up in the future, if they do decide to do this cabinet again, is to give us a 19-inch screen and to also include the lit marquee. And then if there is an issue with the send-in technology and it not being accurate enough, to give us a switch on the left or right side of the marquee where we can turn it on or off. That way, if we're playing it, the marquee could be off. If it's in a track mode, it could be on. Those are just a couple ideas for in the future. But, overall, as far as this cabinet goes, like I said, not many differences. This is essentially the same cabinet we've seen over and over again with just a few cosmetic changes. No additions, no upgrades, unfortunately. Now, one thing I did want to point out is this does say 68.9 inches. And if that is accurate, that means we're gaining a half an inch on the previous version. Previous version came in at 68.4. This one will be 68.9. So a half an inch ain't much. It's just a tad higher, tad taller than it was before. But for someone like me that's 6'4", that's going to benefit anyone that's tall. It brings that screen up a little bit higher, making it a little more enjoyable for us that need that. So just some things to point out on that. And we cannot pre-order this yet. It's not available to purchase. I imagine the pre-orders will become available here in the next month or two. And then this will be available before, I would say, November, right around Black Friday. And if it was anything like the previous one, it'd probably be available at Best Buy and other major retailers. But this one is looking good. This is one we've known about for a few weeks now. It's good to get some images, also get some more details on what we're actually getting with this one. So now let's take a look at the next cabinet. Now this one is very exciting because this one was a complete surprise. We knew nothing about this cabinet, and that is going to be the Terminator 2 Arcade1Up. Now this cabinet has been released once before, and it was one of the best ones they ever made. It had its faults, but it also had some really great things going for it. Number one, it was one of their tallest cabinets. It also had authentic artwork. They did not exclude Arnold. Arnold's all over it on the side panels, on the marquee. It's got authentic artwork throughout it. The gameplay's great. Uses that same send-in technology as the Big Buck. Let's now get into some of the negatives of this cabinet. One of them being that it did not have a 19-inch screen. Again, everyone that buys these light gun, send-in light gun games, they want a 19-inch screen. They also would like to not have the wires all sticking out too. That was another thing that people would always modify, as you see those wires just kind of hanging down there. Whenever you set the gun into the cabinet, those are just hanging down on the front. A lot of people would modify it to where they could put those cords into the cabinet where they're not visible when it's in its attract mode and it's just sitting, no one's playing it. Keep those out of view, out of sight, out of mind. So there were some things that were going for it, but also some things that were really holding it back. So let's take a look at what the port data says here. It says that it is a Terminator 2 Deluxe arcade machine. Next, let's look at the details of it. Again, I got these from the GameStop Canadian website. And unfortunately, a little bit of a bummer, we're still just getting one arcade game, and that's Terminator 2. Being that it is a midway cabinet, and there was a very similar shooter to this at the arcades around the same time, I was hopeful that they would include a second game. And I always thought that the ideal second game for this cabinet would have been the Aerosmith arcade game. If you guys remember the Aerosmith shooter, it used pretty much the same guns, and it played the same. The graphics were very similar. I just always thought that would be an excellent second game for this cabinet, and they have not included that, or any other game for that matter. So definitely going to hurt, I think, its potential, being that there's still just one game on this cabinet. It does have online leaderboard still. Officially licensed artwork, says it's over 5 feet tall. Now that's key. We're going to look at that here in just a moment. 17-inch BOE, still working with that smaller 17-inch screen. Does include a light-up marquee, and this is also new here, behind-the-scenes bonus footage. So here is a look at the cabinet itself. It does say 156 centimeters. I did the math on that, and from the previous version, which was actually one of their tallest cabinets, the T2, the original T2 Arcade1Up, you're actually losing 4 inches on this one. So imagine the previous one and imagine this one being 4 inches shorter. So that's quite a bit of height that you're losing there. Also, you look at that 46 centimeters there for its depth. Very narrow, very small cabinet. This is more like a slim edition cabinet. You know, if you've noticed lately, Arcade1Up has been doing this ever since the NBA Jam. They're making the depth not as deep. You know, it's a very slim cabinet design. That also reduces the weight and the dimensions of the box, because that helps in shipping cost. It also helps with the retailers when they're carrying these in store. They don't take up as much shelf space. So a lot of reasons why they're doing that. And it really doesn't benefit us, the consumer. It's more benefiting the retailers and the manufacturers and the profit margins. But looking at some changes that were made because of that is you'll see that Arnold on the side panels is a little bit lower now. They had to bring that down to make that all fit. Also, where the screen sets, it's going to not set so far back because there's not much behind it. You can kind of see that in these images. It's just that there's just not much depth behind that screen. So not when you open it up from the back, there's not going to be much room in there. This is the information on the behind the scenes. It says also includes behind the scenes bonus footage. It doesn't say much more outside of that. So we'll have to wait and see what that is about. Is that going to be movie behind the scenes, the making of Terminator 2, the movie, or is that going to be behind the scenes making of the game? We'll just have to wait and see. Here it is saying just, you know, officially licensed artwork, sleek cabinet design, molded coin door. So all the same, again, a little disappointing in certain areas, being that, you know, they're just really rehashing these cabinets. They're just pumping them out, making slight adjustments, slight changes to these cabinets. But bottom line, it all seems like these changes that are being made for financial reasons, to increase profit margins, also to satisfy retailers, to make these easier to ship. There really aren't any improvements on these two cabinets that I would say would benefit us as the consumer. Our voices are not being heard. You know, when we say we want bigger screens, we want lit marquee on the big buck hunter, we want a taller cabinet, not a shorter cabinet. It just doesn't seem like Arcade1Up listens. But one thing they are doing is they are taking care of themselves. They're trying to stay in business, trying to stay profitable. And it looks like they're doing that. They've achieved that. They've stayed in business now for much longer than people thought that they were. You know, when they quit releasing new cabinets a couple of years ago and we started seeing them do this, a lot of speculation behind that the company was going to be going under and they just could not stay afloat. But that does not seem to be the case. It seems like they're going to finish out the year with a couple of new cabinets and these Big Buck Hunter and T2 light gun games, and we'll see what the rest of this year brings. I'm very still hopeful that, you know, Arcade1Up will release a new cabinet, or at least announce a brand new cabinet by the end of this year. Hopefully that's a Robotron, a Smash TV, a track and field. You guys name it. You guys tell us down in the comments, what do you want to see? If these are successful and Arcade1Up has the ability to produce something brand new that we've never seen before, what do you want to see? If it's a classic arcade game, a modern arcade game, let us know in the comments. Also, hit the like button, guys. Subscribe to Biggie D's Arcade. We're going to be discussing all this in future live streams. Make sure to tune into those, and I'll see everyone in the next one. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.